order of proceeding will be that the Code Enforcement Department will present its side of the case. After the Code Enforcement Department presents its case, respondents will have an opportunity to ask questions of the Code Enforcement Officer. If there are no questions of the Code Enforcement Officers, we'll move into the respondent's presentation of their evidence. Any testimony and evidence you'd like me to hear, that will be your opportunity. I know we have an agenda here. I've had a request to move case number 3, Mr. Brian Pugh, respondent, up to number 1. So that will be the first case we hear, and then we'll be proceeding in order from that point forward. Clerk? Okay. And then we'll proceed according to the order of the agenda after that point. And with that, anyone so inclined, if you'd rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And anyone who's planning on presenting testimony, if you want to stay standing after we're done with the pledge, I'll go ahead and swear everybody in. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, if everybody who's planning on giving testimony would stand. Is your client left the room?
He had to step out. He has 3 phones.
Okay, well, just remind me and make sure we'll get them sworn in. Do you all swear or affirm the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Well, actually, since we moved them up to number 1, we'll wait for your client to get back because we moved you to number 1.
Drew, do I need to introduce him as my counsel?
If somebody would, before you start, we'll wait for the respondent to come into the room, though.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pugh, before you sit down, if you'd raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Case number 2020-1116, Brian Pugh, owner, location of violation 4201 Warner Lane, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation 2015 International Property Maintenance Code, Section 302.1, adopted by St. Cloud City Code, Section 10-13, and St. Cloud City Code, Section 24-162A and 36.38A. Description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed accumulation of solid waste, high grass, and exterior property areas to not be maintained at this location.
So I see a couple of things. One, a new face. I'm assuming Conflicts Counsel. I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute. I also see Respondents Counsel has approached, so I'm assuming you may have some preliminary motions you'd like me to consider or argument. Let me let Conflicts Counsel introduce himself, and then I'll ask the Code Enforcement to yield the microphone to you.
Yes, thank you. Blair Jackson, Conflict Counsel for the City of St. Cloud as to solely case number CE 20-1116.
Okay, thank you. And if Code Enforcement offer you to step aside, and we'll let Respondents Counsel.
I just have a question to temporary counsel. Did you ever work for the firm that had to be recused?
Yes, I did.
What years?
1996 through 2002.
It's fine. My client didn't start dealing with it until 2004, so that works.
Thank you.
Only other motion, we had moved to dismissal at this time that my client has complied with it at this time of the hearing. We did not get to it as December 2nd as we thought we would and which we told the court because they told us you could put 937 tires into this thing, and the size tires that my client had were not. He had 2 trips out there, completely loaded trucks. In fact, I believe they have a picture of the truck that they load to put them in. And he now has everything as of today's date is in that vehicle waiting for it to be delivered. So all the trucks are done. We believe that the landscaping is okay, and it's in accordance with what is in the style of the neighborhood as far as the boundaries. There are shrubbery and bushes, but that's on both sides of the fences, not just my client's. And we would request that there be a dismissal.
Okay. I'm going to deny the motion to dismiss. I want to hear the evidence, but I will consider any evidence you have to those points when we get to that point of the proceeding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Code Enforcement?
Good afternoon, Melissa Howells, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of St. Cloud. I am presenting this case for the property located at 4201 Warner Lane. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: a copy of the notice of violation sent by regular mail, a copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail, a copy of the notice of violation posted on the property and City Hall, a copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail, posted on the property, City Hall, for November's magistrate meeting, a copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail, posted on the property and City Hall for today's meeting, a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, affidavits of postings, evidence of mailings, the code sections in violation of, a copy of the deed to the property, and a copy of the cost incurred if the magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $409.55. The respondent is here. He has been provided a copy of everything that I am submitting to you right now.
Any objection to the evidence being submitted? Is there any objection? Oh, you're right. Oops, sorry. There will be. Thank you.
On June 15th, 2020, I received a complaint that this property had an accumulation of tires, pallets, and miscellaneous items all over the entire yard. On June 16th, I went out and verified that the property was in violation of having an accumulation of a massive amount of tires, which is a life safety issue concern if the tires were to catch on fire. There was also a violation of high grass. 5 photos were taken. I don't know why these are going in order. These are starting to move, but this is from that date, 6/16. On June 16th, I did send out a notice of violation by regular mail to the owner of record to correct the violations of high grass and the accumulation of solid waste and to maintain the exterior property areas. I gave the respondent 10 working days to comply. On July 1st, a reinspection was performed and most of the grass was cut, but the accumulation of tires was still all over the property and not in compliance. I took 7 photos. On July 1st.
Before you proceed, is this a residential property?
Yes, it is. Single-family residential property. On July 1st, I sent out a notice of violation by certified mail to the owner of record for the accumulation and exterior property areas not being maintained in a clean sanitary condition. The post office website stated it was delivered to an individual at the address on July 6th at 3:21 p.m. However, I never received the signed certified mailing card back. The owner of the property, Mr. Pugh, Brian Pugh, came into the office providing me with documentation from Sunbiz that his father owns a business and that he is working under his license. I explained to him that the address for the business is out of Sarasota, Florida, and not for this property. This location is a residential property and has no business license on file for this location. He stated he wanted to comply, but wanted to know what he needed to do. I explained everything that needed to be cleaned up and removed from the property, and I extended his time for compliance. On August 14th, another reinspection was performed, and the property was still in violation, and the high grass, I'm going to have to go back, it's going on its own. I can't see the date, 7/1. Okay, there's 8/14. Most of the grass, another reinspection was performed and the property was still in violation and the grass was high again. I left a business card on the front gate of his property asking him to please give me a call to update me the status on the removal of the tires. 2 photos were taken. And I showed you those 2 photos. On August 21st, I received a call from Ron Lejeune, stating he was the owner's attorney. He stated that Mr. Pugh was going to try and get his business license for the recycling of the tires and that he was waiting on a machine to come in sometime in November. I had Mr. Lejeune look at the county property appraiser's website while on the phone, showing him the map of the property from the new bird's eye view, showing the amount of tires that had accumulated on the property. I explained that this was residential property and that only business licenses were and that only business licenses issued for residential properties was for home occupations used for office work only. But he could certainly reach out to planning and zoning for confirmation on this. He stated he already had a call in to them. I extended the time again for compliance to get a response from planning and zoning. On September 11th, a reinspection was performed and the property was not in compliance. I took 10 photos showing non-compliance on all violations. I don't think I can do it yet. Okay, so these were dated on September the 11th for the high grass. Still in accumulation, high grass. He did load some tires up on trailers, but as you can see, the yard is still full of tires and high grass. On September 15th, I posted the property in City Hall with the notice of violation. I did an affidavit of posting and took one photo of the posting due to not receiving the certified mail-in card back signed for. That's the photo. On October the 20th, a reinspection was performed and the property was still in violation of high grass and accumulation and exterior property areas not being maintained. I took 19 photographs on the 20th of October. That same day, October 20th, I sent out a statement of violation and notice of hearing to the owner by certified mail. I posted the property and City Hall, did an affidavit of posting, and took a photo of the posting, which is shown. On November 16th, a reinspection was performed and the property was not in compliance. I took 8 photographs showing non-compliance. This case was scheduled for the November 18th magistrate meeting due to a conflict in representation for the city and the owner stating everything would be cleaned up and removed by December the 1st. It was agreed that an inspection would be performed on December the 1st, and if not in compliance, the case would be scheduled for today's meeting. On December the 1st, due to me being on vacation, Officer Neal performed a reinspection for me, and the property was not in compliance. 19 photographs were taken.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Counsel, if you can call Miss Neal, she's here. She can testify to what she observed. When the current witness is done, you can stay, but I'll sustain his objection and let you allow her to testify as to what she saw.
On December the 3rd, a new statement of violation and notice of hearing was sent by certified mail to the owner of record, posted on the property and City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed and 4 photographs were taken. There was an empty semi-truck there.
I'm sorry, what was the date of these photographs?
The 3rd of December. On December 14th, which was this past Monday, another reinspection was performed and approximately 95% of the property had been cleaned up. There were still tires, pallets, and miscellaneous debris. 11 photos were taken. That truck, the back of that semi-truck is not allowed in a residential area either, which I've not cited him for, but he has blocked his driveway with it, so. So it's the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of an accumulation of solid waste, high grass, and the exterior property areas not being maintained in a clean and sanitary condition. The city would recommend that the violations be corrected by December the 30th, 2020, or accrue a fine in the amount of $250 a day until compliance is met. The city would also request that the cost incurred in bringing this case before the special magistrate in the amount of $409.55 to be paid within 7 days of the written order by the special magistrate. And that concludes my presentation.
So was your last inspection on the 14th?
Yes, sir.
And you have not seen the condition of the property today?
No, sir.
Okay.
And also, typically, we just do an inspection the Monday before, prior to the meeting, because we have to get our PowerPoints and such, in order. Also, I'm having to make appointments to the neighboring property to take photographs because he will not let me access to the property. So if he wants a compliance inspection, he's going to have to schedule an appointment with me.
Okay. Counsel, any further questions for your witness?
No.
And the witness is available for cross. Ms. Howes, if you'd,
Officer Neal? Oh, I'm sorry.
do you have any cross for her?
Yes.
Officer Howes?
For me or for her?
I didn't know if we were taking the officer.
Okay, so the last time you wrote there was Monday, is that correct?
So we can get them both at a microphone. Would you mind if we put the witness over here at the end of the
That's
table,
fine.
perhaps, so that you can use that
Yes.
microphone and you can use that
I
one?
don't think it's on there.
Can we hit the button and turn it
I
on?
don't know. Let's see. Hit the button. Is it red?
Hello? Hello? You can hear me?
No.
Okay.
The last time you were at the property was December 14th, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You noted at that time that, I believe you testified that 95% of everything had been done by December 14th.
That's correct. Guesstimate.
Where do you go to take the pictures?
A neighboring property that's given me access.
And who is the owner of that neighboring property?
Randy and Terry, I don't know their last name.
Does Randy work for the city of St. Cloud?
Yes, sir, he does.
Which department?
A welding department.
And you weren't able to get a hold of him to go out and look at the property after the 14th?
I could, but we've had numerous inspections over there, and they have to put up their dogs every time I go over there.
So you did not ask for another inspection, is that correct?
No, I did not. He was not in compliance by the time specified, so.
You asked for a penalty of $250 a day?
After December the 30th,
What was the request you asked for a penalty last time?
$100 a day.
So because this hearing continued, so you could get another attorney, you raised the fine, possible fine, from 100 to 250.
That's correct. I do not make that determination, and it has been almost 2 months since his first compliance date.
Do you have a breakdown of the $409.55 fee?
I do. It's on the back of your packet.
When you were there on the 14th, would you say there were approximately 21 tires there?
I did not count, sir.
Is it possible that the number of tires that were still there was 21?
Is it possible? Yes. It appeared to be more than that, but it could be. On December the 1st, though, if you look at the photograph that's shown on the camera, that's way more than 21.
I agree with you, but I never did ask you that question, did I? Please just answer the questions that I'm asking you. Another truck had shown up and pulled off most of the tires. Now, is this a picture, and I'm not sure where it is, and
What's the date on that photograph, if you
it's a
don't mind?
12/14. It is not the one that's on the screen presently. If I could just show it, and then show it
Show it to
her.
me, if you'll show it to council, and then show it to me, and then show it to the witness.
Well, make this maybe a close. And those were the tires that were remaining there that day, right?
I believe so. Yes, I believe so.
Now, you're referring to that one spot right there
For what, sir?
for there being high grass.
No, not just that spot.
Are you
There's,
saying there's high grass in the rest of that picture?
on the 1st of December, as well as, yes, see the grass around there, around the property? There's different areas of the property that still has high grass.
Where's the
Some-
high, go to the last picture. Right there. Where's the
That's
high,
an accumulation right there.
that's not high grass, right?
No, sir.
That's where they have put their garbage until it gets picked, until it's taken to the dump. Is that correct? Is that what it looks like to you?
That's speculation on my part.
What is the date of that photograph? Is that
That's the 14th of December.
All the ones I'm going over are the 14th.
Thank you.
And let me ask you a question. Well, go to the next picture. That seems to be a picture of the water system.
Yep. And he did have that all the way to the top of that water system. He has cut it back
Right.
around it, but it's still in violation.
All the part that's by the water system, you're saying?
The part by the water system, the
Not
part in the
rest
front.
Not the rest of the grass in this picture.
Sir, what you see, anything in the right where my writing is, where it says photo taken on 12/14,
Right.
that grass is in violation. The grass by the water system is in violation.
My question is, any other grass in this picture, is it in violation?
Any of it?
Any of it in this picture other than the one by the water system?
And closest to where my writing is at the bottom, yes, is in violation.
And what's the length that it has to be in the city?
8 inches.
And you're saying that what's in front there is higher than 8 inches?
By my, yes, my perspective, yes. By what I seen being out there.
You didn't measure.
I couldn't measure it. It wasn't on, I was not on the property. But the one by the water system is clearly over 8 inches.
Go to the next picture for the 14th. And the grass in the foreground is fine, is that correct? You're talking about the grass in the background, is that right?
Correct.
And that is by the fence, is that correct?
I can't see it. Oh, you mean the fence right behind the shed?
No, the property line. If this is
I-
all by the property line.
I can't see the fence from this photo.
So you don't know whether it's,
I don't know where his property ends, no, sir.
all right. Go to your next picture on the 14th. Go to the next one. Did we discuss that one? And I think we discussed that one.
Well, that was the one that wasn't close up, but you can see the grass around that trailer. You can see the accumulation around that trailer. It's not just the tires, it's the accumulation.
All right, after the trailer, the grass is okay?
In certain areas, but not the entire property.
All right. And where were you taking these pictures from?
Again, from Randy and Terry's property.
In this picture here, are you taking it at the fence line?
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming that when you took the picture, you got some of the picture of the property you were on, is that correct?
No, sir.
Did the property you're on have any grass taller than 8 inches at the fence line?
No, sir.
Go to the next picture. Other than I see the tires again, what else is in this picture?
I can see it better on this one than that one. Well, I don't know what all that stuff is. Actually, that's the wrong date. That was on 12/1. Am I going backwards? I put 12/14 on that one.
Go to the next picture.
That is the next one, isn't it? That's the next one.
Okay, and do you know, as of today, whether that small pile is still there?
I do not.
If you go to the next picture. And what's in this picture?
I was just showing that the driveway was cleared off.
Okay. Now, this is the fence line, is it not?
Correct.
And everything on, well, we'll say your side of the fence would be the neighbor's property, is that correct?
Correct.
So if I look at that picture, all the tall grass is on the neighbor's side of the property.
There may be a small clump right there. But if you look at closer on the other side, it's just as tall. Can you see it on this one?
I'm not sure I see that, but. When you go farther down to the next post,
What do you mean?
well, in that picture. You get here, everything on this side is on the neighboring property?
That is not Mr. Pugh's property, and that is not the property I was on.
Okay. I want you to look down that fence line. Do you not see on the non-pew side of the fence that there's accumulation of vegetable matter on the non-pew side of the fence?
Sir, I got a complaint on Mr. Pugh's property, okay? Right now, we're complaint driven.
I can have her answer my question, please.
Did I not see it? No, I did not see it.
Do you see it now?
I mean, not really, but
Now, Mr. Pugh has, if you go to the next picture. Mr. Pugh has been taking these things out on these cars. Trucks, I would guess have to say. And if you're gonna get out, seven, eight, 900 tires, you're not gonna roll them down the street to get them out, are you? You gotta get some kind of. big
There's no
vehicle.
semi attached to that. That's just the back end of the tractor
Right,
trailer.
I understand.
Okay.
But that's what kind of vehicle you're gonna need to put 400 tires or so in, is that correct?
That's correct.
And
And
just before
there's
we
no
go too far down this track, the trailer is not part of the violation that code enforcement has presented to me today, and I will not be entering a ruling on it. I don't want to interfere in your questioning, but I'll just let you know now, I will not be entering a ruling one way or the other on that trailer.
That takes care of my need to ask any more questions, thank you. Now, I could go one by one over these pictures that you did on the 16th, and 95% of them are now in compliance, is that correct?
On the 14th?
No, on the 14th, is 95% of the pictures you took in June been taken care of?
I would guesstimate, yes, 95% has been cleaned up, but not in compliance.
I need a few more moments. You mentioned there were some pallets still there on the 14th. I did not see any pallets in the picture of the 14th. You're talking things that's in the garbage container?
Pallets right there, pile of pallets.
What time were you out there to take your pictures?
Right around noontime.
When you were talking on the 16th of the violation about accumulation of solid waste, you were talking about the tires and the pallets, is that correct?
Several different things. What, you keep saying the 16th, are you talking
Well,
about the
excuse me,
14th?
June 16th.
June 16th. Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna go by my recollection, I'm gonna go back to the photos if you wanna go back that far. I mean, we're talking from June to December, we're talking.
I'm just talking about in June when the violation was filed. We're talking about tires and pallets.
Okay, so we'll start at the 16th. So we have an accumulation of tires. We have, I don't know what some of that stuff is in that photo. He has these plastic cartons. I think you can put water in or chemicals in. He had all of that out there. I don't know what that is either. I know it's pallets, and I can't tell if that's washing machines or tubs or it's an accumulation.
And that was all gone when you were there on the 14th.
Yes, sir.
In fact, everything but the tires and some of the pallets were gone when you went out there in September.
No, sir. This is September. This is my high grass.
I'm just talking.
There's the solid waste. There's the pallets. I don't know what all this stuff is with the plastic around it. That was all in September. And actually, if you want to go to October, we're still here with the same thing in October. I don't know what all is, trailers, whatnot. There's October 20th, still on the driveway.
Stop right there. Go back.
Okay.
This is Mr. Pugh's fence line,
Yes.
and the other side of the fence is somebody else's fence line.
No. This is the property that I took the photos from, Randy and Terry's. That's his grass. This is not grass. This is underwater here, so this is not grass. This is a vegetation of some sort of fern.
Seems to be more than 8 inches long.
We don't do ferns. We do grass. That's grass on the other side.
And when was that picture taken?
October the 20th.
And that was full of water in October the 20th.
I didn't say it was full of water. It was underwater. There was water there. Yes, sir.
You precisely remember that.
My shoes got soaking wet every time I went out there. This last time on 12/14 was the only time my shoes didn't get soaked.
Do you have the pictures of the high grass from June?
Yes? Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Okay. Front yard's fine.
Grass too tall.
That's a septic tank. Usually it's a little longer. No. It was all in the rear.
And that is 95% taken care of as of the 14th.
Yes, sir.
And the 5% would be along the property line. And I believe the water.
I didn't take pictures of the entire yard, but I would say that the majority of it is just possibly weed eating that needs to be done. The 5%.
And his 5% of weeding, I guess, was not underwater? Or do you know?
I would say no around the well and certain areas, but maybe around the perimeter of the property may have been underwater.
As the property stands now, we'll go back to the 14th, it's the last time. Could you speak into the microphone, please? I apologize. As to the property you saw on the 14th, except for those pallets and those tires, there were no further safety concerns.
No, sir.
So if you received evidence that those two items have been removed and are no longer there, then if that's true, as of today, there would be no safety concerns of it.
Correct. Are you finished? No?
I want to confer with my client first, if I may. We have no further questions.
Thank you. Anything on redirect?
No redirect and no further.
So do you have another witness?
No further.
Did you want to call Miss Neal? I would like to hear from Miss Neal.
Oh, you would?
Yes. So if you won't call her, I'll ask for Miss Neal to come and.
I'm gonna go ahead and go to the 1st of December for her.
Thank you. And Ms. Neal, I would just like for you to go through those photographs taken on December 1. Was that the date of your inspection?
Yes, I went out there was right after lunch, I think, and took it from the the property that backs up to him, the Randy and Terry. That's a closer up one, zoomed in. I just tried to get different angles so you could. There was still a lot of tires there on the 1st of December. And there's the grass and weeds. That one I zoomed way in. That one. There's another kind of angle of the grass. And that was all that was on December 1st.
And I believe you took photographs on December 3rd, according to the evidence in my packet?
Yes, we posted.
And these photographs?
We're on December 3rd.
And did you take any photographs of the property, of the violations, the alleged violations on December 3rd, or were the only photographs taken on December 3rd of the truck?
The only ones on December 3rd was of the truck there and then where I posted it.
Did you make any personal observations of the condition of the property on December 3rd?
I did not.
Okay. Counsel, I guess I should offer her to you first to see if you have any direct, now that I've asked the questions I wanted to ask. Do you have any direct for the witness?
No, I don't.
Cross? Do you have any cross for her?
If I could, you could play the pictures. You've got the pictures.
Which pictures do you want to see?
Just, we'll start with the first date you was out there was December 1st, right?
Right, so I'll go all the way back to the first pictures, the first one I took on December 1st. Okay.
You notice in this section, the tires are all lined up.
Yes,
And we can't see much of them, but they look
Right.
like they're lined up again, is that right?
right. I just tried to take different angles
I
like
understand.
that.
This is, where'd you take the pictures from?
From Randy and Terry's.
Go back to the, I'm assuming that's the fence, is that correct?
Yes,
And there is high grass on that side of the fence, right?
on his side of the
Terry's
fence?
side.
Well, I can't see it in that picture,
Or was there?
if there is. I don't recall.
So there may have been.
I don't recall.
Objection, speculation.
Go to the next picture. Again, the tires are lined up like in a row.
Yes, sir.
It looks to be about the same picture.
Right.
The tires are all lined up in a row.
Mm-hmm. That's high grass.
All right.
That's more pictures of the high grass.
There's more tires all
Mhm.
lined up in a row, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Now they're not lined, they're piled on top of each other.
Those aren't really lined up in a row all that well either, correct?
Correct.
Go to the next one.
That's the high grass and weeds.
And that's it, it looks like it's at a property line.
Yes, sir.
Go back to that one. Do you know if any of those accumulations are on the property line on the other side? Or can you tell?
I can't, as of now,
Right.
I haven't been out there since.
No, I meant, when you took the picture, could you tell
No, in that picture, I can't tell.
which side, you can tell like the fronts and this side of the pew side of the fence, but the ones in the back, you don't know if they're on the neighbor's side of the fence.
No, I was standing on the neighbor's side, so it wouldn't show, that's the Pew's side. So on the neighbor's side, I was standing on that side.
I'm gonna bring you over here because I think it's a better picture than that one. Do you think there's a fence here?
Yes, it's like a wire fence.
There's grass on both sides of that wire fence.
No, that is not grass. That grass is on Pew's side. If I was on the neighbor's side, yeah, that's not the neighbor's grass, because why would I take a picture of the neighbor's grass if that was theirs, if I was taking pictures of Mr. Pew's?
Well, you can't ask questions, but to basically state, I'm not disputing that the grass in front
Right.
is Mr. Pew's. I'm saying that the vegetative matter in the back is on the other side of that fence.
That picture's not clear
Well,
for the
and
back.
This
so-
one is clear, though, if you want to look at this one.
Not for the back, you can't hardly see it. I can't.
I think it was asked and answered. She doesn't.
All right, well, if her answer is she doesn't know, that's fine, but I didn't quite hear those words. But if that's the answer, she doesn't know, then I'm fine with that answer. Go to the next
Go on,
picture.
next one. Okay.
Go to the next one. Most of those tires appear to be put in a row, is that correct?
Correct.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's showing the grass. And that was all of them. That's,
And there was on the third,
well, no, the third was when we posted.
all right. And you have another one from the third?
Yep, none of the, we just did the posting and the truck,
All right, if you
the
could,
pictures of the
Yeah.
truck.
and that's the truck, is that correct?
Correct. I think that was the last, then it goes back to 1214.
I have no other, well, let me check with my phone. When you get a violation, and while you're out there checking out on that violation, and you see any other violations that are obvious to you, what do you do?
We will cite the person, but right now, we are on complaints only. We're
Is that
only,
the COVID situation?
yes,
Normally, you would cite those individuals.
yes, sir.
And if and when we get over the COVID crisis, will you be going out to check any of the old violations you saw to see if they've been taken care of?
If we get a complaint. But then I would have to, if you're referring to the Randy and that neighbors, we would have to be able to get access, because that, you're referring that that's on the back of their property. We can't walk all over their property, so either Mr. Pugh would have to ask us to come walk on his property to take pictures. Other than that, we can't walk on their property to look in the back.
Excuse me. All the pictures you took were on Randy's property, none of them at Emily Grant's property?
No, that was all on Randy's property.
I have no other questions.
No regrets.
Does the city have any further witnesses? No. Mr. Lejean, before you sit down, it's your turn.
All right, thank you. I would like to call Brian Pugh. Can he stay with me, or do we need him to go?
Depending on how close you're comfortable standing together, I'll rely on the comfort of the attorney and the witness. If you'd like to distance a little bit more, one of you is more than welcome to go over to that side and use a microphone. If you want to share that one, you
I haven't
can.
caught it in the morning. I'm probably not going to catch it. So I think we'll just stay where we're at. State your name, please.
Brian Temple Pugh.
And when you bought your property, where was it located?
I believe where it's at now.
Well, was it in the county or the city?
Oh, I misunderstood the question, sir. It was county.
All right, and then you got merged into the city without asking for it, is that correct?
Without asking for it, but also protesting being put into it.
Then you were in the city. When you were in the county, were you in residential?
I was agricultural.
And then
I was agricultural.
you did.
Okay.
Why don't we go ahead, since now one of you just asked, and Mr. Pugh, if you want to just sit in that chair, you might be more comfortable anyway, so
Go have a seat.
make sure there's,
That's the one that's turned on.
Mr. Pugh, that microphone that's standing straight up, if you'll pull that one towards you, because I know that one's turned on.
Yes, sir. I don't want to break it. There we go.
If you just want to state your name again so we can just make sure we hear you.
Name is Brian Temple Pugh.
Before we get started, to be upfront, do you suffer from HD, hyperactivity? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What's the
I-
definition of what you're diagnosed?
I have a couple of disabilities, some physical, some
I
mental.
just want to know the emotional one.
Severe depression and a attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
All right.
Severe.
So if you get nervous or anything going on today, just let me stop, and I'm sure the magistrate will give you an opportunity to get everything back together, okay?
Yes, sir.
You saw the pictures from June.
Yes, sir.
Are they basically correct?
Uh,
Are the pictures correct from June? The ones they took in June?
Specify in what respect, sir?
Well, in the respect that there were tires there, pallets there, and the grass was overgrown.
I agree that there were tires there. I was keeping count because I was in county and keeping track of my tires according to the Department of Environmental Protection's protocol. I did have a lot of tires according to now under being in the city. I also had pallets. I requested information about how many pallets I could have, but to no avail.
But you had pallets there,
But I did have pallets there.
and the grass was high.
I disagree with the grass being high, and except when we're in the wet season, the rainy season, when that was happening in June. I'm the highest house, and my bottom of natural grade is at 0 for highest season water table.
Okay. You had a license with who?
My license is with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection
For what?
for the hauling of tire carcasses.
All right. And you were in that business of cutting up tires and bring them where they ever go after you harvest them.
In the model, I take the tires and also then take them for disposal and then bring back mulch for distribution for safety and security for children.
All right. How many tires are you allowed under that license?
1,500, sir.
Okay. And did you have more than 1,500 tires?
No, I had 997 at the time of the first notice.
And you got the complaint from the city of St. Cloud, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I believe this young lady here, talking to the attorney, is the one that posted everything, is that right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Originally, what was your plan going to be to try and dispose of the tires?
I built a business plan before I went into this business. I looked at the Gaussian curve of tire distribution across the area, across the state of Florida, and across the United States. I only took the responsibility of disposal of small ATV tires and motorcycle tires that you might have saw in the picture, and semi-tires. And car and truck tires I didn't touch because of the Gaussian curve.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're going to have to explain that term to me.
The normal bell-shaped curve, sir.
Okay.
Because just in terms of economics, there's less of them, and therefore they're more valuable.
Now I understand how you're using it now. That's what was throwing me. I didn't know how you were using the term. Now
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
And I had a business model to where in around June, July, I had determined that I would be able to purchase a machine to take the sidewalls off and to process.
Was this so that after you got the complaint, you could get things done faster?
Not only do things faster, but actually my motto or my mission for this was to take more tires off, to repurpose tires and to take the sidewalls off that could be used for another purpose to give them more life, as well as to make the tire mulch. And the model was going okay until a pandemic hit.
All right, and then that's when the tires started to accumulate.
They accumulated faster than disposal because of the fact that I'm a first responder with my job, and I was not able to take time off, or I could only do it Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The place is closed on Friday, so it was only Monday that I could actually dispose of, and I was rate limited on the disposal at that point.
And at the time of the original pictures in June, you did not have that fast machine, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Were you ever able to get that machine?
I was not able to get that machine. I'm still in contact with them, but the capital investment did not come through for multiple, like other businesses. Yeah.
And we're now in about September, when your financing fell through?
Yes, sir.
So that's when we decided, well, that's when you decided that you just had to get all the tires out of there, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what did you eventually work out, I believe sometime in end of October? I'm not sure, sometime in October.
I discussed with the place that I take them, and they brought to my attention an opportunity to where they bring the trailer to me.
Is it that type trailer? It's in the picture?
Yes, sir. A 48-footer semi-trailer with a CDL driver that has the license with the company. Essentially, I'm the only one that could haul them before, because I'm the only one. Plus, I had one other person that was licensed to haul tires, but that's with a small truck in a regular trailer.
So this company gave you this size semi and a driver to haul them away?
Well, they didn't give it to me, but yeah, I purchased it.
And what did they tell you about the number of tires they could put in one of those?
On the phone, I'm in contact with them a lot, and they deal with a lot of people. So when I called them up and talked about tires, tires have different units. And when I say that,
So what number did they give you?
they said 1,200 will fit in this trailer.
And when the truck showed up, what did you find out?
As I'm putting them in, I realized there's, I've had some physics and stuff like that, but I realized that this math is not adding up. With the geometry, you have to take that by a fourth. So at the time when I came and made that statement of they'll be gone in one trailer, it was the fact that I thought that I knew I had less than 1,200 tires. They'll fit 1,200 tires, but they were talking about car and truck tires, not my Gaussian curve of
You don't
semi
have
tires.
car and truck tires, is that correct?
I do not have car, truck, or trailer tires.
So how many trucks did it take?
It took 3 and it took three truckloads.
And the last truckload is the one that we had the pictures for the 14th.
It was 21 short. It was 21 short of fitting them all in, but I have them on one of my trailers that I normally take.
Well, don't jump ahead.
Oh, okay, yes, sir.
So you had 3 trucks, counting the one that's on the property that they haven't picked up
Yes, sir.
yet, absolutely full.
They're full.
Now, we saw in the picture on the 14th, there were 21 tires and there were some pallets in there. Did you make trips to various places that day?
Yes, sir. At daybreak, the local salvage yard that I deal with for metal and things of that nature opened. I took that first to get that heavy weight off the yard while they first opened. They opened at 8:30, and then I came back with an empty empty truck.
You didn't drive that trailer, right? You just did your pickup truck.
I do not have a CDL license, and I have a pickup
I
truck.
want to make sure you're driving your pickup truck.
I'm driving a pickup truck. And I came back and then started. I knew that the transfer station was open, and I started taking the pallets to there, and that took 2 distinct trips. They get
You
rid
saw
of.
there were some pallets in the picture that you had there. Those obviously were the pallets for the second trip.
That was the second trip, though. The trailer was loaded with one set first. I just attached it and took them, and then when it came back empty,
If she had come on the 13th on Sunday, there would have been more stuff there, correct?
absolutely, we're still moving things.
So when you came back in the afternoon, did you take the rest of those pallets away?
I took all those pallets. They're off the yard, and by sundown, all the tires were on. The 21 tires were on the truck the trailer that I use that can fit a whole truck or a car, and they're loaded on the trailer, and then I tarp them so that even though I use a larvicide to kill any mosquitoes that would be there in the first place and other things, I tarp them, and they're waiting till Monday to take them off the yard.
And you did that with still having your full-time job as a first responder, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I work 10-hour days. And the governor put a thing in place where you can't take a break off unless you're sick. And if you think you have COVID, you can take off, but you don't get off unless you don't get the time back unless you have it. But you mentioned disabilities. I'm type 1 diabetic since age 8, and I was concerned that I've been in the hospital quite a few times this year.
You want to see first?
So I know what he's talking about. That's probably a good idea. Thank you. Sorry.
Can you identify what those,
Well,
can you identify what those pages are saying?
yes, sir. They're depicting 2 items. the front of each, with the small pack that's signified as pre-strike. I had a small spreader that I would put this material that's it's a larvicide that kills the mosquito larvae and other things that grow in a larvae form without causing any problems to animals that might be drinking it as well.
And that was sprayed where?
That was at the initial, when any tire comes to my yard, I would have that inserted into the tire well, even if it was dry. So if it did accumulate water, that water was tainted to kill larvae.
And the second page is a different one?
It's a livestock premise spray used in the agriculture industry. I just get it from Tractor Supply, but it's also a broad spectrum. You use it for different vectors of disease that kills equine encephalitis, classical swine fever, now Zika, and things like that. Used in the beef and dairy industry, and it's safe for the animals because if I'm doing a business that's supposed to be eco-friendly, I don't want to cause more damage than I'm helping. So I would spray this around my yard, and that way I can, even though there's larvicide, if there was any standing water on the yard, I have a sprayer that I would ride with my lawnmower and spray.
And this was for safety and security reasons, is that correct?
As a public health person, as well as in accordance with the Department of Environmental Protection protocols, yes.
And that's part of the thing you do because of the license?
Yes, sir.
And these are the things that you do as part of the license you had to do the tires?
That is correct, as well as making sure that I'm a good citizen for the environment.
Would like to place these in evidence?
No.
Thank you.
Now, after the first truck is full, about how many tires did you have ready for that pallets?
Sorry, can you go over your microphone?
I apologize, ma'am. I'm wondering way too much. Do you know approximately how many pallets and tires got into the first semi?
Well, the semi didn't take any pallets. That was taken and disposed of at the transfer station here in St. Cloud. Or it was donated to a local business that actually takes those
And
pallets.
so you donated some of these items when you were moving them?
Yes.
Who did you donate to?
J&J Liquidations, I believe.
Where are they located?
Right off of Earl O. Bronson Memorial Highway, right at the border of St. Cloud and Kissimmee.
That's where the flea market used to be, and there's a shopping center now?
Yeah, but prior to that, there's a big sign for karate or something like that.
In that vicinity?
Yes.
So what you could donate, you did donate?
Whatever I could donate, I donated. Whatever I could scrap, I scrapped. And whatever I could give to the Goodwill, I did that.
All right. So do you know approximately how many tires were in the first group?
I didn't use my clicker. I use it when I'm, consuming them. But it would hold between 300 to 350 if you're really good. So I wasn't that good. So I would say about 300 each, or about 325 each. 325, yeah, because they're.
Now, these tires were sort of all lined up in a row. What was the purpose for that?
For safety and for systematic disposal. I was able to get a hold of what they call a skid steer, and put the forks far enough apart, and use a skid steer to then deliver them up.
In other words, I know nothing, but you put some kind of blade in them, you picked up a whole bunch and put them in the truck.
Yes, sir.
And
then
that's
I-
why you put them in a,
And then organize them in the truck to make them as compact as possible, but to get them off the property, up the lane to the truck without passing out. Yeah, that's what I did.
so when did the first truck arrive?
Mr. Lejean, I will allow you to continue this line, but I will intervene to say if the point of your questioning is to convince me that he made a sincere effort to comply with what you both told me at the last hearing date, I believe you.
All right. I'm going to go through it much faster than you. So you brought one truck in when?
It was delivered, I'd have to look at my receipts, but it was delivered before the start of Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving starts on Thursday, but so it had to be before Wednesday. It was maybe Tuesday it was there, the week of
You
Thanksgiving.
know when it was picked up?
It was picked up the next Wednesday or Tuesday for the next weekend for me to.
And when did the next truck come back?
The next one came, the one that's there now.
Oh,
That's
the second one, not the one that's in now.
Oh, the second one? The second one came and was swapped out, I believe, on Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week after Thanksgiving.
All right. And when did the third truck that's now on your property show up?
It showed up, I believe it was another Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday.
Wasn't yesterday, so it was,
The previous
Tuesday.
Tuesday, and I loaded it over the weekend because
all right? And you filled that one up too, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had 21 more tires,
I had 21 tires that did not.
and you've testified you disposed of those in the afternoon of the 14th, is that correct?
They are on the trailer for disposal with a tarp over them.
Ready to go?
Ready to go, but I work 10-hour days. They're closed on Friday. Even if I took off Friday, but I'm one of the only inspectors on, but I'm off on Monday, and I can take it on Mondays.
All right. Now, as to the grass, except for the property, well, let me go back to the property line. Property line, you do have some vegetation growing there, is that correct?
At the property line,
At the fence line?
I have around the whole property, there's a ditch. My ditch that goes out and then drains. My house is the highest house in the area, and there is a ditch.
Let me go over my question. 'Cause
Okay.
That's not my question, what your ditches. You do have some vegetation growing on the fence line.
Yes, sir.
And is there vegetation growing on the other side of the fence line?
Yes.
And that's where everybody keeps it, you know, there's nobody that takes it all out.
Nobody takes it all out, and some of it's on purpose.
All right. Have you cut all the grass that you thought you should?
I thought I did, and that I sprayed pesticide.
I was out mowing. You mowed all that? You mowed all the grass that you thought needed to be mowed?
I thought I was in compliance with the grass. I got one. It's in the same order. Yes, sir. I have it.
Do you recognize these pictures, Mr. Pugh?
Yes, sir.
Did you take these pictures?
I did take these pictures.
All right. And the first picture and the second picture, and I believe they're all in order.
They should
First-
be from
Yeah,
the same.
the first two pictures,
the
hold them up to
depicting
make sure we're on the same.
depicting my back porch, and then the next one showing a picture on my back porch.
Is any of that grass 8 inches tall?
In my assessment, it is not. I have a, no.
What are the next two pictures?
It's the same side, but I wanted to span to get a good, to get a distinct picture of what's going on in the yard.
Is that grass 8 inches or more tall?
No, sir.
And when again did you take these pictures?
Today around 10 o'clock.
All right. The next two, what did they show?
The
And
next-
counsel, if you'd mind showing, making sure, just so I can see, I'm trying to track with you, but I want to make sure I'm on the same. We're good, thank you.
One is, yes.
What are these pictures?
So this is a picture from the vantage point of my unclosed patio of the well in my first shed improvement of the house. And
Is that grass over 8 inches, or 8 inches or over?
it's nowhere near, no.
Can't
it's
hear you,
not.
I'm sorry.
It's nowhere near 8 inches.
All
It's
right.
not 8 inches.
Now, I want you to look on the side where there's vegetation. There is vegetation there, is that correct, by the fence line?
There is.
Is it on both sides?
Well, it's on both sides, but it's actually originating from the other side.
But it's on both sides, and that's the way it's been since you've been there.
Yes, sir.
This picture here?
Could you bring it closer so I make sure I think I know it, but I'm not, I didn't identify them. Yes, okay.
That's a picture from the front of your property, is that correct?
That is a picture from the front of my property on the easement of me, yes, of my front of my yard.
And when you, the front part is not your yard, is that correct?
It is not,
The back part is your yard.
yes. I'm landlocked, as I call it.
The grass that we see there, is it more than 8 inches long? Or 8 inches or more long?
From my assessment, it is not.
You got this picture?
Okay, or, what, that picture that you're depicting, that I recognize that picture.
There you go.
And I remembered not to talk till I got back. What's this a picture of?
Well, Randy and Terry's easement to their landlocked property that had to be traversed in order to get a picture of my backyard of where I was performing my abatement.
All right. And with the next two pictures? What are those pictures?
It's on the side of the property that's next to mine in my landlocked area. Which one of the two? I want to make sure.
Oh, let's go with this one. One looks like that post in the ground.
Yes, so that shows a portion of inside of my property, but it's showing three distinct properties. To the far right, it's showing on the white side of the fence would be Randy and Terry's property. On the vantage point is from Emily Grant's property, looking into the vantage point of my property on the other side of
The
the fence.
home in there is your property, is that correct?
That's my home.
These metal posts on the line are not yours, and not on
Those,
your property.
that is trash that has been left by someone,
Not you.
not me.
Recognize these two pictures?
I do.
Start with the one with the boat. Can you tell me about that?
My neighbor is assumed to have a airboat business and a boat business.
Which neighbor's this?
This is the one that works for the city of St. Cloud,
All
which is
right. Is that
Terry.
Randy's, right?
Randy, yes.
And this is a picture you took?
That's a picture I took of one of his boats
All right.
in a trailer.
And that vegetation that's growing there is on his side, is that correct?
That is correct.
The other picture that we talked about?
This is this the same one here, sir? Okay. So this is the vantage point of Miss Emily Grant's property directly in front of my garage, and where, yes, that's my house.
And that shows vegetation growing on both sides of the property, is that correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes.
The first one shows those middle pipes that we've already discussed, correct?
Yes, sir.
They're not on your property.
Not on my property, and didn't
Also
originally.
shows the vegetation growing on both sides.
Yes, sir.
Then there's one with a trailer and some other items. What is that?
It looks to perceive to be a airboat trailer because it's flat, and it perceived to be an old air handler system and outlets for gray water.
Is that on your side of the property?
That is not on my property. This is from the vantage point of Miss Emily Grant's property, looking into the city worker of Randall.
And it looks like there's grass growing above the trailer, is that correct?
Above the trailer, plus there's a couple tires back there and a lot of beer cans.
And there's also vegetation along the fence line.
A lot, and some of it has fallen on my fence.
All right. The next picture.
Okay.
There's one, looks like there's some kind of flat board.
I'm going to object at this point. I'm not sure about the relevance of the sign.
Well,
It doesn't seem to be directed to the height of the lawn or anything like that.
you'll notice after we identify where it is, we go to the vegetation in the back to show that that is the normal way the vegetation occurs in that neighborhood, and it's always been that way. And then we're going over various of his neighbors to show that vegetation on the line, which she says,
I've
Most-
seen the vegetation on the line, so I'm going to overrule the objection. I'm going to let him continue, but I would, if you have new things you'd like to see, if you want to keep showing me the same, I've seen, I think, what you're trying to show me.
we're going all around the edge of the property. If you think that you've seen enough, that we've gone over all four.
If your point is to show what's happening on neighboring property, I think I get your gist. So if you'd like to continue, I will not stop you, but I think I get the point that you're making. Sorry, I know that throws you off your rhythm a little bit, too,
No, I'm-
and going through the stack of photos.
I'll go into the ones that I think I,
Take your time. About how far did you, there he is. Got it, got it. Yep, I'm with you.
I did take this picture, sir.
fair example of what it's like.
That's a, no.
That's a fair example of what the property actually looks like.
That is a regional improvement depiction of my property.
Originally, there was a red garbage type thing in this area.
It was a thing that, yes, a trailer that I put behind my lawnmower to then have a battery in the back with it to then spray. I use it to spray the pesticide that we
And you
mentioned.
move that out of the back?
I moved it to the back in a straight line in an organized fashion.
You moved it from this spot here.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you look at that picture, except for that one spot, is there any grass over 8 inches?
I would contest that even that grass isn't 8 inches, sir.
But that's the tallest grass there.
That's the tallest grass I have on the yard.
This involves all of the pictures. You identify this picture.
I do.
All right. Who's, is this fence line?
This is a fence line. In this depiction, I reported those tires that you see in the far left to the police department as they're not my tires as I described. I only do semi-tires and motorcycle, but they are on my property. And I noted it, and I have a report, a case number from the police department. They're not my tires, but they're on my property as of last night.
So if somebody went today, they'd see those tires there.
They would see those 3 or 4 tires that I reported, and I have a security company coming to make sure I can document these type of trespasses.
All right. Did you do everything you could to come in compliance?
With all knowledge that I had at the time, and I believe I have done everything that in my power and my will to come into compliance as far as I knew of the compliance.
I have no other questions.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
So you indicated you have a business license, correct?
I applied. I actually hired legal services to get the business license, but that was been difficult since I incorporated, as well as to get it from the city. I've run into a lot of barricades in many fashions with the city.
Well, my question is, you don't have a business license here in Osceola County, correct?
I have one.
In Osceola County?
I have one for. I don't want to tell the wrong thing, so I have a business license, but the details of that I would have to look at.
But not this county, correct?
In the county,
Yes.
I would have to look in to see if it is in for this county.
Okay.
I would have brought those documents with me.
Okay. And I think by your testimony here today, you're indicating that you understood that you were in violation, correct?
That is not true. I did not want to give that impression.
Okay. But you've been actively trying to comply with what what
I-
code enforcement is telling you to do, correct?
I would say it like this: if ATF came to my door, I don't have any weapons, but if they came and ATF does alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, if I had alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and they're telling me I'm in violation, I would succeed and give it to government in protest. Essentially, I was giving this up because I was not getting what I needed for the business license through the normal channels, even with attorneys. I said it's easier to actually offset my model, and I don't have to look at tires on my property. And that's why I decided it was in the best interest to comply, but to move my assets and my production elsewhere.
But you've been trying to get your property into compliance, correct?
That's
a yes or no question.
It's a no. It's not necessarily because I was in compliance before I got annexed.
Okay. So we saw some trucks on your property and truckloads of tires, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Three truckloads?
It took three 48-footers
Okay.
trucks.
They're still on your property, all of them?
No,
Are any trucks still on your property?
there's a truck on my easement outside of my gate,
Okay, but not on your property.
but not on my property.
There is not, and I will not be entering a ruling on that. I'm giving counsel an opportunity just to see where he's going here, but I do hear your objection. I'm going to hold off on it a little bit, see where you're going.
Thank you. Well, simply, are you aware that having those trucks on your property could constitute a fire hazard or a hazard of some sort?
Counsel, can you explain to me the relevance of the trucks when I've already said I'm not going to be entering a ruling about those trailers today?
Simply that it was a hazard that exists on the property.
And I will not be ruling on that today, so if that's all that the trucks are being discussed for, we can move past it.
Very good. And as you sit here today, you cannot indicate to the magistrate that you are 100% in compliance. Is that correct with these violations?
To my understanding, the code enforcement madam has not communicated with my attorney on a regular basis but wants to try to communicate with me, and I want to protect my Fifth Amendment right through this matter. I believe I'm in compliance based on what was just written, but it's been like reading shadows with the communication.
I'm just going to consult with code enforcement. No further questions.
Mr. Lozano, any redirect?
As of you sitting there right now, do you yourself believe you are in compliance
Of what?
of the violations that have presented here today? Nothing to do with the truck or anything like that.
I believe I was never in violation according to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, which I have a permit for.
As to the city of St. Cloud and their 3 alleged violations, you have complied with all of them.
From the prism of their accused violations, I am in compliance.
And just to make the matter straight, I know you talked about Osceola County. You have not been able to you have gone to attorneys besides myself to try and get a business license for the city of St. Cloud. Is that correct?
I have not been able to get that, and I've gone to, yeah.
So the business is no longer there, and you never intended to be there, and you have moved it to some place that is easier to get along with.
Absolutely, sir. I've offshored it to another location.
I have no other questions.
I have a couple, and so if you'll stay close to the microphone, I don't think I'm going to ask anything objectionable, but if you'd like to object to my questions, you're also more than welcome to object to those. I will understand. Mr. Pugh, based on your observations of your own property, is there any grass or weeds remaining on the property in excess of 8 inches in height?
No, sir.
Are there, other than the tires that you have filed a police report about being illegally dumped on your property, are there any tires remaining on your property?
There are no tires, but there are tire-like substance in the skid tracks, which I use. And I'm just disclosing everything just in case some people would consider that a tire. It's the skid tracks that you use for tracks that don't collect water, but they're good for sediment control, especially for farmers.
Is that equipment that you use to take care of your own property?
It is equipment that I use. It was actually one of the skids was used to get these tires on in the trailer.
But it is equipment that you use on your own property. It is not recycled tires, tires looking for their next purpose in life. It's nothing of that, nothing of the sort that you've heard code enforcement testify to today.
No.
Okay, that's all I had for your witness, sir. Ms. Wiljon, anything else from you? Any closings?
I'll let code enforcement make their request.
Yeah, you've made it. You made it.
Yeah,
I have it.
I'm good.
I'll take the code enforcement officer's request made earlier under advisement, and I will rule shortly, but I'll give Mr. Lejeune an opportunity to make any closing he may have.
In essence, Mr. Pugh has done whatever he could to come in compliance. Even when we mentioned it at the last hearing, we thought everything would be done by the first week of December. That's what he believed from what he's told. Then he started putting tires in and realized it wasn't going to work. But let's go back to the 16th when that first came out. When it first came out, he was going to take care of the problem. He finally came to me, I believe, well, I'm not sure, late July, early August. I called up and spoke to code enforcement, see what could be done, whether we're exploring trying to get a business license for the city of St. Cloud. She advised she didn't think we could get one, but need to go, I think she said planning and something else. And that was out of my bailiwick, so I had him go get another attorney to go ahead and consider that. After they checked into that, they came to the conclusion that he wasn't, that it'd be a waste of his money for them to go in and try and get it done. Then he's got all these tires, and he's got to get rid of them, and they've been accumulating because of COVID and him not being any days off. His job with health department, he's running all over the place with no time off. It's all first responders generally work. So he just got more and more. So he's going to try and get a machine that actually does the job faster. And you don't get that overnight. He waits till sometime, I believe, in September. He's denied in September or October, and he can't get it. So he says, I just got to get rid of these tires. So instead of making a profit on it through his business, he now has got to go into negative financing because he's got to hire somebody to haul it off. He can't find anybody. And then finally he gets a hold of Global Tire Recycling out of Wildwood, Florida, and they say they can go ahead and take care of the problem. So he hires them. They say they can't come until just before Thanksgiving, and I think they asked him if he wanted to wait till after Thanksgiving. He said, no, bring the truck as soon as you get the truck here. And they bring the truck. He thinks it's going to hold all those tires. Well, it doesn't take him too long to realize that this thing is not going to. And he mentioned that maybe he could have got more in there if he packed it better, but he packed it the best he could. And so he figured out it's going to be 2 truckloads. So they pick up that truckload. They come back a few days later with a second truckload. Well, he gets that truckload filled up and he realizes, no, I'm not going to be able to have this thing taken care of with just this truckload. So they come and they take that truckload and they bring the 3rd truck that is presently on the property. And he manages to get all the tires in there except for 21, which were still there on the 14th when code enforcement came by. They were gone the same day, but they were still there at the time they came. The interesting thing, he had 2 big columns of pallets. And when they took the picture, there was only one there because he was delivering the other one to, I believe, someplace that used them, so he didn't have to just throw them away. He's He got in this business, as he's testified to, because he was trying to be good to the economy, take care of all these things. And so he gave the pallets away to someone that could use them. He gave the metal away to someone who could, whatever he could give to somebody to use, he gave. And actually, he gave those tires to that company, and they're probably going to make a decent profit off it on both ends, because I know they made a profit on him renting the trailer. But he has done everything he could do since June 16th to come in compliance. Are they correct? He wasn't in complete compliance on the 14th. He was 95% compliance, and we believe he's 100% now. All that grass and materials there is all fence line, and it's on both sides of the fences, and she testified that where she was standing was in water, but she didn't know if there was water on the other side of the fence. Most fence lines I go to tend to have water on one side, they tend to have water on the other side. But I think what we see here today is someone, and he has difficulties, who's done excessively good with the life, the way he has been given it, who did everything that he possibly could to come in compliance, to the extent that the business isn't there anymore because he's come to the conclusion he can't have a business there. So he's moved it. But I think under the situations of this case, he's done everything he could to come in compliance, and the case should be dismissed. Thank you.
Okay, based on the evidence and testimony received, I will make a ruling. To the extent that last request for dismissal, I do not find this proper for dismissal. I do think there is competent substantial evidence to show that there was a violation on this property. And before I go into detail on that finding, I want to say to Mr. Lejean and Mr. Pugh, your attorney did an excellent job. These are also challenging facts, and I'm sure Mr. Lejean is probably aware of this, that in making the case for how hard you worked, he could not avoid making the case as to what a problem this was. You had to work a long time to get this to where it is today. And so all of that evidence, while it tells me, and I believe you are a good person who did your absolute best to fix this once you realized it was a problem, it was a problem. And for that reason, I find that there was a violation. I am going to rely on respondent's testimony today, since it is the most recent testimony that the violation has been cured. And specifically, I'm relying on your testimony that there is no grass or high weeds on that property above 8 inches, and that there are no tires other than those that were illegally dumped on your property. And I will caution that just because they were illegally dumped, it is still your property. You have to take care of that. Sounds like you're in the process of doing what you need to do to enforce your rights to protect your property. But when that process is done, I hope those tires are removed, because I don't want to have to hear this case again. Because this is the double-edged sword that I am doling out by making the finding I am today. Because if I hear these same violations on this same property again, it's now a repeat violation. And I can fine up to $500 a day for every day beginning on the first day they see it. So if there is any doubt in your mind, if there's one blade of grass, and I'm not saying I would enter a ruling over one blade of grass, but if there's one blade of grass on that property that you see tonight when you drive home, that's over 8 inches, my strong suggestion is you go and get a pair of scissors, get a weed whacker, whatever you have to do, and get it down under 8 inches and keep it down under 8 inches. So that is how I'm ruling on the facts of this case. I am going to deal with, and Mr. Lozano, I'm going to ask you to confer with your client on this question. Because the costs requested, they are in line with the complexity involved in this case. I see nothing that jumps out at me that looks time overspent in the investigation. I know how much time was spent before we even got to a hearing today, and how much time was spent in a hearing. So I find those numbers to be reliable, and they are by no means punitive. They are the way that the jurisdiction does not force the taxpayers to pay for those that have to come before code enforcement. And because I am finding that there was a violation that was not cured by the time set in that initial notice of violation, I am going to impose those costs. And where I'd like you to confer, though, both because of the time of year And also, I am sensitive on this issue, on this case, because I know the amount of effort and probably money and certainly lost profit to a point that you made, Mr. Pugh has already suffered. I am willing to be quite lenient on the timing of that. Normally, it's 7 days for those costs. I am willing to consider months on this one because I'm sure that he has spent a substantial amount to get this taken care of, and I appreciate that. So if you wouldn't mind conferring with your client and asking him how much time he would need, and that amount is $409.55, what timing he could get that paid without creating any more burden on him that he's already suffered in bringing this into compliance. Yes, sir.
If it please the court, he would like to pay it at the rate of $75 a month starting January 15th after the holidays.
So we're looking about 5 months.
If I knew math, I would have been a doctor.
Yeah, you and me both. 5 to 6 months, though, and that's kind of what I was thinking as a reasonable number, given the amount that he's had to put in. So that is going to be my ruling, that it's $75 a month, the 15th of every month beginning in January.
And I'm assuming if it's a weekend, it would be the following Monday.
Yes, sir.
And that's paid at City Hall, or where does it?
It is, and I would be willing to make this easier for you and the clerk's office. Instead of $75 a month, if he wants to pay everything by July 15th, I will enter that. If he wants to pay it in pieces, he can pay it in pieces. If he wants to pay it in lumps, he can pay it in lumps. If he wants to pay it 11th hour, he can pay it the 11th hour. So that's actually how what I'm going to put into the order. It's
Thank
just
you.
give him until July 15th to get that paid. It's easier for everybody. So before I let everybody go on this one, I do want to say 2 things. One, thank you to both attorneys. You both did excellent jobs in difficult situations for both of you. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your professionalism. And also, again, to Mr. Pugh, I mean what I said. I believed your testimony today, but that comes with a burden. And if there's any doubt in your mind, do not let this come back in a repeat violation, because as of today, you are in compliance. And if they see a non-compliance tomorrow, that's a new case and a repeat violation. So don't let that happen, okay?
His question is, how long does he have to appeal?
5 years is what will be in my order, is that if it occurs again within the next 5 years, it can be treated as a repeat violation.
I think his question is to appeal this hearing.
Oh, to appeal, I'm sorry, I thought you said repeat. 30 days, that appeals to the circuit court. And that clock will start running on the date that I sign my order, not actually today's date. think we can get down. Welcome back, Council.
All right, we've got some people here, and I know we've got some people waiting out here for a 5 o'clock meeting, so. we'll
5
try-
o'clock meeting we have coming up?
Is
I
that
just heard
correct?
6.
think so.
6 o'clock, I apologize.
we can
6
get- I
o'clock,
think
so
we can get through
we'll have
these by
ample time,
6.
yes, sir.
If we'll let the clerk call the next one, we'll get a start on it.
Case number 2020-198, 982R, Robert Goddu, owner, location of violation 810 West Nolte, New Nolte Road, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation, Land Development Code, Section 3.3.1F and 13.3. Description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed electrical work to be performed without obtaining a permit at this location.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you may. And thank you again. Thank you both. And happy holidays.
Good afternoon, Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I am presenting this case for the property located at 810 West New Nolte Road. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the notice violation sent by certified mail to the owner, a copy of the notice of violation with the new date sent to the owner, copy of the statement of violation notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner and posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, copy of the affidavits of postings, the certified mail receipts, a copy of the deed to the property, copy of the code sections in violation, copy of the costs incurred if the special magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $232.40. On June 1st,
Is the respondent, did you
oh,
send
the
it?
respondent is here.
And has he been provided a copy of your evidence packet?
Yes, sir. On June 1st, 2020, the tenant called and requested an inspection at this location. On June 1st, I went to the location, and there had been electrical work done throughout the property without a permit. I took 6 photos. On June 2nd, a notice of violation was sent by certified mail to the owner and posted on the property and City Hall. An affidavit of posting was done, and I took 1 photo. On July 1st, Officer Howes checked and no permit had been applied for. On October 8th, I talked to the owner's sister, and she stated the tenants had moved out of the property as of October 5th. On October 8th, I called the owner and left him a message to call me ASAP about his property. On October 13th, I checked, no permit had been applied for, and I never received a call back from the owner either. On October 13th, another notice of violation was sent to the owner with the new date. On November 13th, I checked, no permits had been applied for. On November 17th, I posted the property and City Hall with a copy of the statement of violation, notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner, an affidavit of posting was done. I took 1 photo. On November 30th, I checked, still no permit had been applied for. On December 14th, I checked, still nothing, still hadn't heard anything from the owner. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of failure to prohibit but rather allowed electrical work to be performed without obtaining a permit at this location, and to have the permit applied for by December 30th, 2020, or pay a fine of $100 a day until compliance is met. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing this case before the special magistrate in the amount of $232.40 to be paid within 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And that concludes my presentation. And I do believe they want to talk.
Respondent?
Hello, sir.
It's all right. If you would start stating your name for the record.
Okay, Robert Goddu, Goddu. If you have questions, I mean, I don't want to just blurt out.
What,
Waste time or anything.
I
do
have questions. If
yeah.
there's something before I ask any questions, I can ask some and get to the meat of it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, sir. Okay,
Was there electrical work done?
yes, sir.
Did you have permits?
I do have one now. I paid double because it was done, the work was done.
After the
But I
fact.
do have a permit for that, yes, sir.
When did you get that permit?
Um,
Do you have it there with you?
yeah, I got it right here.
Code enforcement officer, do you mind looking at it and seeing if that looks, I know you can't tell me definitively, but
I don't think that, I think that's just a copy, the one I misdid, but I do have a permit. May not have proof of it. I messed that one up and redid it, but yes, I have paid for a permit. I do have it, but I don't
Yeah,
think that's actual.
That's just an
That's,
application.
yeah, that's the one I screwed up on, but it's been permitted for at least a few weeks. If I have to get proof, I could. But I don't have actual proof now, but I do have a permit. This is just my messed up application she handed me. I don't know why I even took it. I'm sorry, I'm unorganized. I don't have a lawyer or nothing.
that's okay.
I just want to,
December
yeah.
14th, when I checked, there was no permit that had been applied for.
Okay.
So it was way before that, and I'll have to prove that, I guess.
Well, you don't have to prove it because as you heard in the last
Yes.
case, well, the last case is a little bit different, but
Yes.
here, my concern is that there's some confusion, that maybe you have not the permit that you think you have, or, so I do find that there's something going on because code enforcement has checked the permit records and there's not a record in the city showing a permit.
I'll have it paid on my credit card. I'll go down there. I don't know how exactly I'll prove it, but.
But so
yes.
I, again, as in the last case, the violation did occur, so
Yes,
I
sir.
will find there was a violation.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm also going to go ahead and find that the violation still exists, but if in fact you can go into the city and verify that,
Okay.
that you have the permit you think you have for the work that you think you
Mm-hmm.
have it for, you will have complied with what I'm going to order you to
Okay,
do.
yes,
Because I'm
sir.
going to order you to do what code enforcement asked me to, which is that you apply for the permit for this
Yes, sir.
electrical work by
Yes, sir.
December 30th.
Okay.
If you've already done that and there's a wrinkle somewhere in the system and you sort that out, you've taken
Yes,
care
sir.
of it.
Okay, perfect.
If there's a wrinkle in the system on your end and you need a permit still, what you
Okay.
have to do by December 30th
I
is
understand,
get
yes,
that
yes.
permit, or get that permit application.
I know, I'll be able to verify that, yes, sir.
And the other issue is the administrative cost, the amount of $232.40.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay whatever I have to. We'll take
Well,
it, yeah.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked in the last one. I'm going to tell code enforcement and everybody else in the audience, I'm not going to make anybody pay a week before Christmas. So I'm going to give everybody the earliest, January 30th. Do you need more time than January
I could
30th
probably
to pay
the
the
two-something one
$232.40?
today if that's possible. on
You
a
can
credit
pay it.
card. Yes, sir.
You will not be under an order to pay it until I sign the written order.
I'm gonna have to
But
pay
you can
sooner
pay
or
that
later, but
number
yeah,
whenever
yeah.
the clerk's office is ready to receive
Okay,
it
yeah, I'm
from
gonna
you.
do that, though.
But, so in the order, then it will be January 30th to pay that
Okay,
amount by.
the rest of it,
And
yes.
December 30th for getting that permit
Yes, sir.
application in, if you haven't already
Okay, yeah,
done
I'll
it.
get that squared away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it? Nothing else?
That's it.
Okay.
Easy peasy, right?
No, not quite, but thank you.
Case number 2020-989. Robert Goddu, owner, location of violation, 810 West New Nolte Road, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation, International Property Maintenance Code, Sections 102.1, 102.2, 301.2, 302.1, 302.4, 302.5, 304.2, 304.5, 304.6, 304.13, 304.13.2, 304.14, 304.15, 304.18, 305.1, 305.3, 305.6, 308.1, 308.2, 308.2.1, 308.2.2, 309.1, 309.2, 501.2, 504.1, 504.2, 504.3, 601.2, 603.1, 604.3, 605.1, 704.1, and St. Cloud City Code Section 24-52A. Description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed and abandoned vehicles, miscellaneous debris in the exterior property area, high grass weeds, and allowing the residential dwelling to be lived in without proper maintenance and repairs at this location.
Good evening, Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I'm presenting this case for the property located at 810 West New Nolte Road. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: a copy of the IPMC notice sent by certified mail to the owner, copy of the IPMC notice with the new date sent to the owner, a copy of the statement of violation, notice of hearing, sent by certified mail to the owner and posted on the property in City Hall, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, a copy of the affidavits of postings, the certified mail receipts, a copy of the deed to the property, a copy of the code sections in violation, copy of the cost incurred if the special magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $339.40. On June 1st, the tenant called and requested an inspection at this location. On June 1st, Officer Howes and myself went to the location, and there were several violations. I took 32 photos.
Go back one.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was. The others, I could see what you're trying to show me. That one, what am I looking at there?
Well, it looks like I wrote the wrong thing below it. That's just maintenance. And
But what is that? What is that in the center of the frame?
that is that,
Find it on paper.
what is that called? Foam, the yellow foam, that when you spray it, it gets hard.
Okay. Sorry, go back a few to the shower. I think I know what you wanted me to see there, but tell me what it is I'm looking at in the shower.
It didn't have any siding if it was to get
It's
wet.
Down to the wall, that's exposed wall there behind the shower?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's a closer up of where the faucet is and stuff. And that's the sewer, it was open. It was-
The vehicle.
He had a
basis-
few.
The basis for the citation?
Yeah, like that one has an expired tag.
Otherwise, to your knowledge and observation, appears operable?
No, the one is a RV, and it's like in the ground.
Is that a flat tire
Yeah,
or a buried tire?
yes. And then there's, you can tell it hadn't been moved, but it doesn't have a tag. And there's no wheel on that one. Okay. On June 2nd, a notice of violation was sent by certified mail to the owner, posted on the property and City Hall. An affidavit of posting was done, and I took one photo. On July 1st, Officer Howes and Officer Miller met with the owner's sister, Sherry Bryan, at the property due to the owner having to be removed from the property because of an order of protection from the judge by the tenants. And 10 photos were taken. On August 4th, I talked to the owner's sister, and she requested more time, so I gave her 30 more days. On September 4th, I talked to the owner's sister again. She stated they were waiting on the court for the eviction, so I gave her another 30 days. On October 8th, I talked to the owner's sister, and she stated that the tenants had been out of the home as of October 5th. She then stated that the owner, her brother, would take over from now on. So all my dealings would be with her brother. On October 8th, I called the owner and left him a message and never heard anything back from him. On October 13th, another IPMC notice was sent to the owner with a new date. On October 20th, I went to the location, and it did not appear that anything had been done. On October 27th, I went back to the location. Still nothing had been done. I still haven't heard anything from the owner. On November 13th, I went to the location. Still the same thing. Nothing had been done. Haven't heard anything from the owner. On November 17th, I posted the property and City Hall with a copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner. An affidavit of posting was done, and I took one photo. On November 30th, I went to the location. Still did not appear anything had been done. On December 14th, went to the location. Still did not appear anything had been done. Still hadn't heard anything from the owner. They have a gate up, so I couldn't actually get to the house, but you can see, I could still see that there was vehicles and all that stuff there. The respondent is here, and I do think he wants to talk on this one too.
Has there been any improvement to your, based on your observations of the property, has there been any improvement?
Not from what I
you've
could
seen?
see.
Okay.
It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of allowing abandoned vehicles, miscellaneous debris in the exterior property area, high grass and weeds, and allowing the residential dwelling to be lived in without proper maintenance and repairs at this location, and to have the vehicles properly tagged and operable or removed from the property, the exterior property area cleaned up, the grass and weeds mowed, and all repairs and maintenance completed by December 30th, 2020, or pay a fine of $250 a day until compliance is met. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing this case before the special magistrate in the amount of $339.40 to be paid within 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Is the property still occupied?
Not with the same tenants. I don't know if it has
you're-
different
you
tenants
don't-
in it.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, those tenants are gone. I could not evict them, so they were there for 4 months, never paid the rent. They did a lot of damage, left a lot of trash. That's why, if anything, I would ask for more time, but yes, it was due to that. And they did find the permit number. I do have that. She just gave it to me. You want that number or anything? For the other case right before this one, the
The
electrical
existing-
work?
He's
And is it for the appropriate work?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well then, let's finish up this hearing.
This case, okay, I'm sorry. I'm
And
just-
then, well, I'll reopen that one and allow that to come in
Okay,
on the
thank you.
record, but, because I will modify my
Yeah,
order.
that
if
was my
both sides
biggest
are telling
situ-
me that it's,
I was renting the house and I could not evict them. They went over 4.5 months, just did all kinds of damage. Called the police for every little thing. They had me completely thrown off my property. Couldn't even go there to check it or nothing. They did a no contact order. And these were my friends, but it was just a really hard time because then we got lawyers. We were able to finally evict them. I went back. I do not have a job now, so I'm not working. I am cleaning up, and if I could have one of them come out and look if they would like to see my progress. And one other question, a lot of it says dishwasher doesn't work, dishwasher has to be fixed. Is that as me not renting or as me renting it to people? It's part of it being rented.
more of a question for code enforcement.
Oh, that would be something like, okay, I'm sorry, sir, I
Yeah,
just
sir.
wasn't sure. I gotta shut up,
I
I talk
rule,
too much.
I rule on the facts that are presented to
I
me,
know,
but I think it's, with the dishwasher, is there a code that requires the dishwasher to be functioning?
Yes, if it's working when the tenant moves in, then yes, all the appliances have to work. But if he's not gonna rent it,
Yeah, I can't rent, I pulled a homeowner permit, I can't rent for a year. I'm never gonna rent again after this
So
one.
is it not currently occupied as we sit here today?
No, I actually am living there now.
Oh, you're living
Me
there.
by
okay.
myself, yes, sir, and my dogs.
After seeing the evidence that code enforcement presented, do you feel at least somewhat comfortable that you understand what the violations are?
Yes, I wasn't called by neighbors, I was called by the tenants that were being spiteful, but yes, I understand completely. I work in construction, I completely understand, yes.
Then my next question will be easy for you.
Yes, sir.
How much time do you need to get everything you heard today taken care of?
Well, if I can get with her and find out exactly what I have to do and things I don't, because the dishwasher never worked, but I would say a month tops, if that.
I'm going to give you more time than a month.
Okay, that would even be better, sir, I appreciate that. You
Here's-
saw the pictures, it was pretty rough.
And so I'm
Thank you.
inclined for all of the work, and I'm going to give you the two phases because I'm going to give code enforcement an opportunity to sway me if you don't like where I'm leaning. I'd like to give him 3 months because there's a lot of work to be done in there. And again, strange time of year to have to, strange year, strange time of year. And so I'm inclined to say 3 months for everything. However, 1 month for everything on the exterior to get the exterior cleaned up within the next.
The vehicles were a big thing.
Yeah,
yes.
by January 30th.
To me, that's more than fair. I would really appreciate
And
that.
then an additional 2 months to finish up on the inside. Is there a condition I'm not aware of that code enforcement would like to bring my attention to? If he's the only person residing there, if it's not being rented out, and those are findings I'm going to make. So that's going to be part of my order that I'm making this order because you've said that you're not planning on renting it out in the next year and you are the only resident. Does code enforcement have concerns with that additional time
No, sir.
for the exterior? Then that is my ruling. I find that there is that the violations have been proven by competent substantial evidence. Order the respondent to cure all violations within 3 months. So we'll say by the end of
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
March,
1 month for exterior, I understand completely.
and then
3 months for
everything, or
everything
the exterior items cured by January 30th.
Very thankful, thank you.
And then again, the $339.40 for administrative costs in prosecuting this case will require that to be paid by January
I think I'm
30th.
just
You're
gonna go
free to
pay
pay
it.
it whenever you want to come by and
You were so
pay
kind,
it.
I'm just gonna pay that, get that one over with.
Understood.
Thank you
Sir.
so much.
Thank you.
Sir?
And you have a good day.
You too. And happy holidays.
Mr. Magistrate, back to the original case, we just
Yes.
confirmed with code enforcement, it appears that.
Oh,
the-
before you walk away, Mr.
It
this is your-
appears that the permit was applied for on or about October 20th and issued 2 days later. So that comes, the ruling, I think, is still relevant in terms of a finding of noncompliance within the time specified, but it appears that he has since met the compliance that you were seeking.
And code enforcement, you're confident that what you just reviewed, that is accurate?
Yeah,
Then
that's
I
what
will
we do.
modify,
Sure.
actually, I'll wait till he's done with the clerk so he can hear. On the prior case, it seems code enforcement has confirmed that the permit was applied for and issued, so the piece of paper you had looks like the permit was good. So I am going to modify my order in that case and find that you were in violation, but that you have now cured the violation. So I won't have that extra paragraph telling you what you need to do because it appears you've already done it.
Perfect, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Very much, and you have a good holiday.
Case number 2020-1498, GG HP LLC owner, location of violation, 342 Grove Court, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation, International Property Maintenance Code, Section 304.7, adopted by the St. Cloud City Code, Section 10-33, and St. Cloud Land Development Code, Section 3.3.1F and 13.3. Description of violation, failure to prohibit, but rather allowed a water heater to be replaced prior to obtaining a permit and allowing the residential dwelling to be lived in without proper maintenance and repair at this location.
Good afternoon. Alex Miller, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of St. Cloud. I am presenting this case for the property located at 342 Grove Court. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the International Property Maintenance Code letter sent by certified mail, copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail, copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, affidavits or posting, evidence of mailings, copy of the sections in violation, and a copy of the deed to the property. A copy of the cost incurred if the magistrate finds a respondent in violation in the amount of $253.75. The respondent is not here, but the tenants are.
The tenants are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for letting me know.
The respondent also the tenant has been provided with copies of the other evidence. On August 27, 2020, Officer Neal and I were verifying another complaint concerning the conditions of the property located at 343 Grove Court. And I was approached by the tenant for the property located at 342 Grove Court.
The tenant requested a home inspection to be done because she was concerned about the safety of her family. She stated that she had contacted the property manager and the owner several times and nothing was being done. Officer Neal and I went to the property and observed several violations while we were conducting the inspection. Water stains over the electrical outlets located in the outside porch, missing cover for the outside light, water stains on the ceiling, the electrical box was not labeled, rusted light fixtures, windows not working properly, mildew and water stains on the door frame. 5 photos were taken. All stains were indication of water leaking. That's stating that was in violation, but it was complied before the time.
So, I'm sorry, the last photograph, that was in violation, but they cured it after the time, before your?
Before the time.
before the
Some
time
of the
set your
violations were
notice.
corrected before the time.
Okay. Is that what the arrow says?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can't see that far, so
Sorry.
when you just do what you did, just tell me which ones are now in compliance.
Okay, that is also was in compliance. The
And
electrical,
when these say compliance, you mean they came into compliance within the time you allowed them to come
yes, yes, sir, within 30 days. The electrical box wasn't labeled, so they cured that one. And this one was partially in compliance. That was not in compliance, but the first time it was after the time because they requested an additional time to come in compliance. That's the same thing. So, sorry. On August 11, an IMPC letter was sent by certified mail to the owner and the management company to correct the violations within 30 days. On August 25th, 2020, I received an email stating that the owner was working on correcting the violations. On September 16, 2020, Joe Dupreez, the deputy building official, Officer House, the manager and the owner for Golden Grove Mobile Home Park, and I met at the property to go over the violations. At this time, it was explained to the owner what kind of work will need a permit to be obtained by a licensed contractor. The owner of the mobile home agreed to correct all the violations. An extension was provided for the owner to correct the violations. On September 30th, 2020, an email from the owner was received stating that the work has been completed. On October 8th, a compliance inspection was scheduled. Officer House and I verified that some violations were corrected. The tenant stated that the front and the back doors were still leaking. The outside light fixture in front of the property needed to be replaced. Windows were not fixed, and there has been an ongoing issue with an infestation of roaches that had not been corrected since they moved in. The tenant also advised that the owner had replaced the water heater, and she was concerned with the replacement because there were wires hanging and it didn't look finished. I verified that a permit application was not obtained at the building department for the water heater replacement, and 8 photos were taken. So these are the indications of the water leaking inside the property. There's mildew, and this is not being maintained, property maintenance.
Is that the flashing? What is that?
That's underneath the roof, the porch. The
Is
front
that
porch.
part of the roof where the decay is occurring, or is
Yes.
that part of the wall where the decay is occurring?
Part of the roof. And this is a picture also for another picture of the rust because the water is falling on top of the light. Just another picture of the roof as well. And this is a picture of the water heater that was replaced. And then the wires hanging and the work wasn't done right. On October 9, an email was sent to the owner advising that the property was not in compliance and requested to correct the violations and obtain the permit for the water heater at the building department. An extension was provided to the owner until October 22, 2020 to come in compliance. On October 16, I received an email stating that the violations were corrected and an application for the water heater was submitted to the building department. On October 21st, I received an email requesting an extension until the October 30th to correct all the violations And I verified that a permit application was submitted on October 21st and placed on hold because it was missing the information of a licensed contractor.
And that was for the water heater?
Yes, sir. On November 5th, 2020, an email was sent to the owner advising them that the permit was still on hold and the tenant was still having issues with the water leaking inside the home. I did not get a reply. On November 13, Officer House sent an email advising the owner to correct the violations within 7 working days. The owner replied stating that they hired a licensed contractor and he was going to be pulling the permit for the water heater the same day. The owner did not reply about the ongoing issue in regards to the water leak. A notice of violation was sent by certified mail to the owner to correct the violation within 7 working days. I posted the property in City Hall with the notice of violation, did an affidavit of posting, and took 1 picture. On November 20th, I received an email from the owner stating that the contractor was trying to contact me. I spoke with the contractor and he stated that he was going to inspect the work first, but he was not sure if he was going to apply for the permit because he didn't do the work. On November 30th, I verified that the permit was still on hold and the water was still leaking inside the home. I received videos from the tenant showing the water going inside the home, and I have a video.
Is that at the front door?
Yeah, in both doors, yeah. Back and front. On December 1st, I mailed a statement of violation and notice of hearing by certified mail. I posted the property in City Hall with a statement of violation and notice of hearing, did an affidavit of posting, and took 1 photo. On December 14, I verified that the permit is still on hold and no attempt has been made to correct the violation. I also spoke with a tenant who stated that someone from the property came to her house and asked questions about the leaks but left without doing any work. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of not properly maintaining the roof to where water is leaking inside the residential dwelling and replacing a water heater prior to obtaining a permit at this location. The city will also like to recommend that the violations be corrected by December 30th or pay a fine in the amount of $250 a day until compliance is met. The city will also request that the cost incurred by bringing the case before the magistrate in the amount of $253.75 to be paid within 7 days of the written order by the special magistrate, and this concludes my presentation.
Based on what I've heard so far, I'm inclined to agree with your timing of the leak inside December 30th. That's a significant issue, needs to be dealt with immediately. On the permit for the water heater,
Yes, sir.
is your request today that they apply for permit by December 30th or they obtain permit by
They
December
obtain
30th?
the permit.
Is it reasonable right now that if they get an application in, that permit will be issued by the city of December 30th?
They have an application submitted, it was submitted on the 21st,
If,
and
my question,
sir.
if they complete that application, will the city be able to process it by December 30th?
yes, sir.
Thank you. And you said the tenants were here. Did the tenants have any testimony they'd like to give?
¿Quieres decir algo? They want to say, but they only speak Spanish, so there'll be a translation.
Let's see, you,
I could try my best, yeah, I mean, I speak Spanish. Yes.
I'm going to swear you in first, and then I'm going to have you interpret for me while I swear her. Okay? Do you swear affirm the translation you give is a fair and accurate, true and accurate translation of everything that our witness will say? And now, if you will translate for me, she'll raise her right hand.
Si puede levantar la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm all the testimony you give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Que usted dice que el testimonio que va a dar es la verdad y nada más que la verdad.
Sí.
Sí,
You can go.
puede hablar.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Bueno, realmente solamente que yo agradezco porque yo la encontré a ella.
She said she just wants to thank the code enforcement officer to being able to speak with her
Porque llevaba mucho tiempo con problemas y no sabía cómo pedir ayuda.
because she's had these issues for a while and wasn't sure how to ask for help.
Había estado tratando de comunicar con ellos de la oficina y no había manera de contactar
¿Cuál oficina?
la de los donde me tiene rentado, los jefes, los dueños.
She had issues with trying to contact the renting company and wasn't sure how to get a hold of them.
Y cuando yo la encontré, pues entonces logramos que me hablara en español del lugar. Pusieron una nueva, no sé si manager o algo así, que visitaba las casas.
They were having issues with speaking with her, so they had a new manager who was able to communicate with her.
Y le comencé a plantear toda la serie de problemas que estaba teniendo.
So she was able to explain all the issues that they were having with the property.
Realmente entonces a partir de ahí fue que ella comenzó a tratar de ayudarme.
So from there, that's where she was able to get help.
Realmente ya cumpliendo un año en la casa, pues yo traté de comenzar a pedir ayuda porque estábamos muy asustados con los problemas de la electricidad.
She said after a year of living there, they were very concerned with the electrical issues.
De ahí para atrás no había manera de contactar con nadie.
They really didn't have any way to contact anybody.
Y bueno, también tuve 2 semanas con mi nevera rota, mis alimentos perdidos.
She had 2 weeks where the fridge was broken and all her food went bad.
Hasta que hubo un señor que ya a las cansadas de reclamarle por correo, pues me trajeron 2 neveras que también estaban rotas, finalmente una que aunque está usada, pero sirve, gracias a Dios.
So after sending emails back and forth, they brought her 2 refrigerators that weren't really working, and then they brought her a 3rd one that's not the best, but it's still in somewhat working conditions.
Cuando ella llegó y fue inspeccionando, me preguntó si tenía animales en casa y le dije que hacía 1 año y tanto que estaba buscando ayuda por tanta cucaracha porque nunca nos fumigaron antes de mudarnos.
Ella siendo la oficial.
Sí.
So when she spoke with code enforcement officer, she was able to get help, and she said that she asked that the code enforcement officer asked her if she had animals, and she said that they've had issues with cockroaches.
Yo pedí ayuda y me dieron una respuesta, solamente fumiguen ustedes o simplemente se van de la casa, se mudan a otro lugar.
And the response from the owners were that you needed to spray yourself for cockroaches, or if you're not happy with that, then you need to leave.
A partir de ahí compramos muchos productos para tratar de matarlas, pero no lo lográbamos.
They bought all types of chemicals to try to kill the roaches, but they weren't able to do so.
Entonces ella comenzó a tratar de ayudarme para que ellos me ayudaran con alguien que fumigara y bueno, ahora mismo estamos ya fumigando constantemente.
So code enforcement was able to help her with finding somebody who could come out and spray for roaches, and they've been able to get that under control.
Realmente agradezco mucho y siento que le haya molestado en esta tarde.
She says she's very thankful for the help she's gotten, and she feels like she's been a bother.
Gracias y Feliz Navidad. I know that. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Based on the evidence testimony provided, I will find in favor of the city, find the property remains in violation regarding the leaking inside the residential dwelling and the replacement of the water heater without proper permits. Will order the respondent to cure both violations by December 30th, 2020. And as to the water heater, by cure, I mean have in hand the issued permit from the city. So they will have to complete their application, correct their application, and get that permit in hand by December 30th. Also order the respondent to pay the administrative cost in the amount of $253.75 to be paid within 7 days of my written order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 2020-1896, Anton Mark Sprague and Ariel Sprague, owner, location of violation, 714 Florida Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation, St. Cloud City Code, Section 24-162A. Description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed high grass weeds to be above the height of 8 inches at this location.
Good evening, Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I am presenting this case for the property located at 714 Florida Avenue. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the notice of violation sent to the owners, copy of the notice violation sent by certified mail to the owners, copy of the notice of violation with the new date sent to the owners and posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the statement of violation, notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owners and posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, copy of the affidavits of postings, the certified mail receipts, copy of the deed to the property, copy of the code section in violation, copy of the cost incurred if the special magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $247.40.
Thank you.
On October 2nd, while on routine patrol, I noticed high grass and weeds at this location. 2 photos were taken. That's the backyard. On October 5th, a notice violation was sent to the owners. On October 15th, a reinspection was made. The grass and weeds were not mowed. On October 16th, a notice violation was sent by certified mail to the owners. On October 29th, a reinspection was made. The grass and weeds were still not mowed, and I took 3 photos. That's in the alley. That's on the side of the property. On November 3rd, a notice of violation was sent to the owners with the new date, posted on the property and City Hall. An affidavit of posting was done. I took 5 photos.
Is the property occupied?
No. On November 12th, a reinspection was made. The grass and weeds were not mowed. I took 4 photos. On November 13th, I posted the property and City Hall with a copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owners. An affidavit of posting was done, and I took 1 photo of the posting. On November 30th, a reinspection was made. The grass and weeds were not mowed, and I took 5 photos. On December 14th, let's see, wait a minute. Yes, December 14th, the reinspection was made. The grass and weeds were still not mowed. But on December 15th, the owner called me and stated she did not know the house was in violation. She stated she would have the property mowed by the meeting, by today. I took 3 photos on the 14th, though. I got ahead of myself there. She had mowed the front and the sides, but the back still had that, and the alley was still there. But she did call me yesterday and say that she would have it mowed. So then she called me back today, and Officer Sparkman went by there for me today, and the property is mowed and in compliance. So it's the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of allowing the grass and weeds to be above the height of 8 inches at this location. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing this case before the special magistrate in the amount of $247.40 to be paid within 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And I do believe the respondent wants to talk.
Hello, my name is Ariel. I'm the owner of this property, me and my ex-husband Anton Sprague. I moved out of the property in May of 2019, he moved back in, and I didn't realize that he had left the property vacant since June of this year. And I moved away 3 hours away to Fort Myers to live with my family because we're undergoing a divorce still. I actually was in town about 3 weeks ago when I discovered that the property was in the state it is in, or was in, and immediately was alarmed and very mortified that it was in the state that it is or was. I'm really sorry that the property became that out of control. It should not have become that out of control. My husband, I have not been able to get in contact with him. I haven't been able to work on communication with him. He has my number blocked. So I could not have known that this was going on. And if I did, I would have taken care of it immediately like I did. And the only reason why I was able to was because I'm on winter break right now with going to college and working full time. So I was able to move around my schedule to come here today and take care of it. And that's it.
So going forward with the state of the ownership of the property, do you foresee any problems in being able to keep your eye on it and make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yes, I don't want this to ever happen again, and I don't trust him to take care of it and to, keep someone taking care of the property. So I'm going to take care of it myself and hire someone to do it because I don't trust that he's going to.
And I assume that you've given your information to code enforcement already?
Yes, my name is still on the deed of the home, and I'm trying to get my name off of it, but it's still, I'm still in the process, the in-between period of the divorce. So,
And I know the code enforcement officers are very good in working with people, and hopefully
Yes.
if you do see a problem popping up, maybe you can let her know. Because you were here earlier when I talked about those repeat violations, and you don't want this to get to that. But I
don't want
also
this-
understand this is a very challenging situation, and I hope code enforcement can work with you to keep this property taken care of.
yes, I
and to
want
make
it to
sure
be taken
that,
care of it. I
that
mean, it really hurts
it's-
my heart to see it like that because I love this home so much, and I'm really ashamed of it, so I'm sorry.
based on the evidence testimony presented, I will find in favor of the city, find there was a violation, find that the violation was cured prior to today's hearing, after the time set in the original notice of violation. The administrative costs in this case are $247.40. I'm inclined to say January 30th, like I said earlier in today's hearings. Do you need more time? Is that understanding? And I understand that's a debt that will fall to both of you, and it may be you who's having to carry the water, and I'm sensitive to that. Do you need more time than January 30th?
I may need more time just because.
How much time do you need?
Maybe till the end of
Don't
January.
don't sell yourself short. I'm in a generous mood this month, so
Okay.
ask for what you need.
Okay, just till the end of January.
Well,
I'm
January
not
is where I
sure.
was. So how about the end of February?
Okay.
It's February
Thank you.
28th to pay the administrative costs. Anything further from the city? Thank you, and thank you for your patience. Thank you for taking care of it. Thank you for sitting through today's hearing. They're not usually this long.
No, just call me at that number. Case number 2020-2095, Patrick A. Tarsian, owner, location of violation 1724 West Acres Drive, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation, the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code, sections 108.1.3, 108.1.5, 6 and 9, 301.2, and 305.1, adopted by the St. Cloud City Code Section 10-33. Description of violation: failure to prohibit but rather allowed an unsanitary condition inside the dwelling that deems the structure unfit for human occupancy.
Melissa Howes, again, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of St. Cloud. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items. Copy of the affidavits and pickup order by animal control for 2 dogs at this residence for neglected and/or cruelly treated dogs, signed. Copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail, posted on the property in City Hall for unsanitary conditions inside the dwelling that deems the structure unfit for human occupancy. Copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail, posted on the property in City Hall. A copy of the PowerPoint presentation, affidavit of postings, evidence of mailings, the copy of the code sections in violation of, a copy of the deed to the property, and a copy of the cost incurred if the magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $234.70. The respondent is not here. I do have Officer Walter Class with Osceola Animal Control here to testify.
I've been wondering all day why we had animal control here.
On October 23, 2020, while posting the property for another violation of high grass, a neighbor approached me stating that there were dogs inside the residence and the owner had not been there for several weeks, and she was wasn't sure they were being fed or not. I knocked at the door and I could hear the barking dogs inside, but no one answered the door. I explained to the neighbor that there was nothing I could do but to try and find a contact phone number for the owner and reach out to him on her concerns. After returning to the office, I called the number on file and left a message for him to call me, and I never received a call back. That same day, a different neighbor contacted the St. Cloud Police Department on the barking dogs. Officer Heller responded at 16:47 hours, case number 2020-297158. Several neighbors met with Officer Heller stating that the owner abandoned the dogs. They all stated that they had not seen him for over 3 weeks. Officer Heller could see inside the residence and there were dog feces and urines all over the residence. He then contacted Osceola County Animal Control and Officer Gaylord responded. She posted a 24-hour notice giving the owner 24 hours to respond to the notice. What did I just do? Okay. 6 photos. Well, this was the posting on October 24th when I got approached by the neighbor. Oh, these were taken by Animal Control. I apologize. With the 24-hour notice, she had my sign in the yard. On October 25th, Officer Brombach with the St. Cloud Police Department met with Officer Walter Class from Osceola Animal Control back at the residence. The owner had not responded to the notice. There was no food or water visible. The environmental conditions and heavy feces and urine justified him to get a neglected pickup order from the court. On October 25th at 20:48 hours, Officer Class met back at the property with Officer Pierre with the St. Cloud PD, and the dogs were removed. Photos were taken of the interior residence, which was provided to me with the evidence that the property is unsanitary and unfit for human occupancy by Osceola Animal Control. This is from the exterior looking in the glass on the 24th, which justified him getting the order. So these were taken on the 25th by Officer Walter Class. All of that is just nothing but feces. The toilets were licked clean. There was no water in the toilets. And that was, I guess, the owner's bedroom. That was the only clean room. He could testify to that. Urine, feces everywhere. Feces even in the trash cans. No, that was the only water bowl provided for the dogs, and there was no water in it. There were empty dog food bags, but they've been in there for several weeks. Those were taken by Animal Control of the 2 dogs. Okay. I'm just going to continue, and then if you have questions for him, we'll go back. On October 26th, I went ahead and red tagged the property for unsanitary conditions, deeming the house unfit for human occupancy. I took 2 photographs of my postings, red tagging the property. On October 27th, I sent out a notice of violation by certified mail to the owner of record. I posted the property and City Hall, did an affidavit of posting, and took 2 photos giving the owner of record 10 working days to correct the violations. On November the 12th, the owner had not made contact with me for a reinspection. On November 13th, I sent out a statement of violation and notice of hearing by certified mail. I posted the property in City Hall. I did an affidavit of posting, and I took 1 photo of the posting. As of December 14th, I have not heard from the owner of this property. So it is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of unsanitary conditions inside a dwelling that deems the structure unfit for human occupancy. The city would also recommend that the respondent be given until January 4th, 2021 to correct the violations or accrue a fine in the amount of $100 a day until compliance is met. The city would also request that the costs incurred in bringing this case before the magistrate in the amount of $234.70 to be paid within the magistrate's discretion.
Other than the conditions related to the abandonment of the animals in the house, was there anything else that was making this unsanitary, unfit?
I mean, I didn't take the photos, obviously, because it was in the middle
Your
of
case
the
doesn't
night.
involve any structural issues?
No,
Okay.
structural.
Just wanted to make sure I
unsanitary.
understood.
Correct.
I don't think I have any questions. I'm willing to listen to anything you'd like me to hear.
I think it's reasonable to believe that any reasonable person would think that it is unlivable inside of the home at the point that I entered the home in October. It was littered with dog feces. The carpet, in one of the pictures that she showed you, was saturated with what I believe to be dog urine. There was a large puddle of dog urine in the center of what would be the living room of the home. There were insects and roaches within the home and within the dog's food. So that was the reason that we obtained the pickup order to remove them, was due to the unsanitary conditions they were being housed in.
And they have not been picked up.
Okay.
Excuse me, had the officer already been, entered his name on the record, just so for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry, say your name.
Just,
Officer Walter Class, employed by Osceola County Animal Services.
thank you, sir. I just want to make sure it's on the record.
Anything else?
He was a big help, is all I can say. And sat through today.
Well, you ruined my charitable mood.
I'm sorry.
But based on the evidence and testimony presented, I'm going to enter the order exactly as it was requested, and I'm not going to give the extra time on the payment of costs on this one.
Okay.
Respondent's not here, and inexcusable. So, find the violation exists, order cured by January 4th, 2020, and order payment of the administrative cost in the amount of $234.70 to be paid within 7 days of my order.
Thank you, sir.
Unfinished business. Request for reduction of lien over 50,000. Case number 2003-15, Michael O'Brien, owner. Case number 2015-1279, Michael O'Brien, owner.
And I'm being asked for a recommendation on this.
That's correct, yes. Sir, Jack Morrison for the city. Mr. O'Brien is here. We spoke prior to the meeting. He stated I just make the presentation. He's here if he would like to speak, or if there's any questions you have. This is, the cases are being joined rather for this request because the lien is up into a significant number over the $50,000 amount. But essentially, the city manager and Mr. O'Brien have agreed to a settlement for the cases of $1,200 to be paid within 30 days of approval by the city council, and we're seeking your recommendation of approval to the council for that settlement. Cases go back 2003, 2015. So.
And can you give me a little bit of the rationale, if you know it, for, it's a substantial reduction?
It is indeed. It's been a number of different things, and there is a letter from Mr. O'Brien dated the 18th of November, which hopefully is in your packet, but I can allow him to speak to it. Due to the circumstances with regard to Mr. O'Brien and his becoming aware of the lien that was in existence, and then with the situation with the COVID this past year and so forth, and now he appears to be seeking to refinance the property is how this came to light. And so the city manager reached an accord with him on this and is going to, with your blessing, propose it to the city council.
Okay, and do I understand correctly, am I right in, or is my understanding correct that Mr. O'Brien is not the original respondent, he's a subsequent purchaser?
That I would have to defer to Mr. O'Brien on from the history of the ownership of the
Okay.
property.
You were trying not to have to come up, I know. A couple of quick questions, just so I can understand.
I was the original officer, and it is the same owner.
Okay.
Mike O'Brien.
And so maybe if I ask you to tell me the same thing you told the city manager as to why you think this is a reasonable conclusion to these cases.
Well, finding out, trying to refinance because of the COVID and the work situations and all that stuff. We're trying to refinance, found out, have a lien on the house, I guess from 2015, a fine. I thought I was in compliance with, I guess when she came out, I guess I wasn't. A certified letter was sent to me. I never received it. She has it. Claudia, you got both of the certified letters that came back, because I was told that somebody signed for it. I never signed for it. She showed me the letters, so I had no clue I was getting fined. I would have never let this get, it's astonishing.
Now,
And then I come to find out I
that
had
helps.
another one from '03 from Claudia that I had no clue I was fined on. I thought I took care of that with the, I guess I had a sign, took that back, paid the $50, thought I was in compliance. I think that was with the car. Was told either to cover it up or put it under a carport, and I thought I'd come into compliance with that, but I definitely wouldn't have let this go that far.
I should have clarified, Your Honor, the vast majority of the accrual ties to the 2003, of course, and it ties to an abandoned vehicle.
Okay.
So I think that was what was backing the city manager's perspective.
well, yes, and the testimony as to the confusion as to in compliance, fine not running, and fine
sir.
actually is running, that helps me understand it and
Yes,
gives
sir.
me a better understanding of the case that lets me make my recommendation. So based on the evidence and testimony that's been presented to me and explanation by counsel, I will recommend to City Council approval of this proposed settlement. And I'll enter an order to that effect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm just going to spend about 20 more minutes asking questions. And I guess we're out of time, so.
New business, none. Next scheduled meeting, January 20th, 2021.
Are we done? Anything else in the city? No? Happy holidays, everybody. You saved the best one for the last one, didn't you?
Have a happy Christmas, you guys.
Melissa.